It's almost unfair Will Howard has so many elite weapons to work with.
You are Locked On Buckeyes, your daily podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in, Buckeye fans, to a Monday edition of Locked On Buckeyes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, here on Monday, September 23rd in the year 2024. I'm your host, Jay Stevens, also the host of the Jay Stevens Podcast, and today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Will Howard every single Saturday walks into the shoe and says, man, what option am I going to choose today? Are we going to go with the run game? Is it going to be Jeremiah Smith? Will it be Emeka Egbuka? Will it be via the tight ends? What avenue will I use to exploit the opposing defense? Because Will Howard has that in his bag every Saturday. It could be the run game. It could be one of the receivers. It could be one of the tight ends. Ohio State's offense is almost unfair because if I'm a defensive coordinator coming and trying to game plan against Ohio State, what avenue do you try to stop? Do you try to stop the run game? Okay, Egbuka's open. Do you try to stop Egbuka and Jeremiah Smith? Okay, Cardinal Tate. Then you also got the run game. There's just so many options that Ohio State has, and that was on full display Saturday in the shoe when the Buckeyes blew out the Thundering Herd. We were watching a game on Saturday that left us a little scratching our heads at times, wondering why is this going on? Why did Marshall score on the first drive? Why was the defense allowing numerous third down conversions? Why did the defense allow Marshall to score in the final minute and a half of the first half? Why? That was on defense. And the defense is great. Don't get me wrong. The defense turned up the intensity in the second half, and that was on full display. Didn't allow had a shutout in the second half, which is huge. But we weren't scratching our heads at all when it came to the Buckeyes offense. Maybe you wanted them to score over 50 points. Okay, cool. But if you score 7 touchdowns in a way, just in general, that's great. But then you look at the receivers that Ohio State has, and the top 3 guys in the room, they had 12 targets. They also had 12 catches. They had 251 receiving yards, 2 receiving touchdowns, and Egbuka and Tate and Smith were just basically unstoppable. It didn't matter what Marshall's defense was trying to do that was very good and prepared for the game. Ohio State's weapons are just better. We can call them a cheat code. Ohio State has a cheat code. It's not just Jeremiah Smith. It's not just Emeka Egbuka. It's not just Cardinal Tate or any other running backs. The whole offense is just a straight cheat code. Ohio State's offense is so good. It can be so elite that one weekend, Egbuka can have 2 touchdowns. The next weekend, Jeremiah Smith can have 2 touchdowns. The next weekend, Henderson and Judkins can have 2 touchdowns apiece on the ground. There's just so many weapons that no defensive coordinator, well, there may be one, but how do you stop a team that has this much in their arsenal, in their bag? Y'all, it's going to be hard to stop them this year. And we have seen some elite offenses under Ryan Day since Day's been at Ohio State. You think back to what Justin Fields did in 2019, where they just basically ran right through everybody and then lost in the playoff. But who did they lose to? A really, 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 really good team. We also have seen Stroud do some amazing things with the football. But this year, we marveled at Olave recently. We marveled at Garrett Wilson. We marveled at Jackson Smith-Njigba. I think at the end of this year, we're going to marvel at the weapons that Ohio State has and think, oh, man, beginning of the year, we got to see a glimpse, just a small little snapshot about what Ohio State's offense can be this year with the weapons. But as we get to games 4, 5, 6, and so on, we're going to see there's really no answer. It doesn't matter what the defense does at Ohio State. Ohio State has the ultimate cheat code that is we can just push a button. And that button is something you can't stop. May it be Cardinal Tate. May it be Jeremiah Smith. May it be Will Howard in the run option game. Whatever it is, we can push a button and you can't stop it. And Chip Kelly knows this. Chip Kelly understands the athletes that he has and the ability that he has to really push any button out there when he's calling plays. If I'm Jeremiah Smith and Emeka Egbuka or Tate or Henderson or anybody else on the offense, it can be very, very easy to get a little disgruntled, to be a little upset, to demand and say, I need the ball now. It'd be very easy to do that because, one, you want the ball, but two, maybe you see yourself open. And when you're open and you don't get the ball, it's very natural to say, hey, bro, you missed me. Homie can't guard me. We saw what we saw on film, and that week ago he had some better play than normal. But in this game, his best ain't better than my best, which means I'm always going to be open. So get me the ball. That would be very easy to do. But we don't really see that. We don't see guys going on the sidelines and throwing a fit and getting a clipboard and throwing it down or getting the tablet and breaking it and throwing it in the stands. We don't see none of that. What do we see? A unit that is in unison, a unit that is together, a unit that is selfless, a unit that is showing everyone we know how talented we are, and we also realize on any given Saturday, it might be my brother's day to go off. And I'm going to root him on. I'm going to be his biggest cheerleader. It doesn't matter what team we're playing. It doesn't matter the game plan going in. Things might have to be altered at the drop of a hat because we realize they can't stop him. So it might just have to be feeding that guy all game long. And that might be what happens. And I don't think, at least these guys so far have shown that that's going to be a problem with them. Chip Kelly is almost maybe a big reason why he came to Ohio State. I mean, if you're going to be a head coach and then drop down to an offensive coordinator and take, a $4 million pay cut, you want to make sure you're taking the right job. And to go from UCLA, which some may say it's not one of the top tier jobs, which it's not, but it is still a job, a head coaching job in college football, going from the Pac-12 to the Big Ten. That's also another reason to keep that job because you know your bank account is going to be inflated because, well, Big Ten money is going to make coaches' salaries bigger and bigger and bigger. And so Chip Kelly, when he decided to come to Ohio State, he knew it was on the heels of Bill O'Brien taking the job and then leaving. And it wasn't because of the talent at Ohio State. It was maybe for other reasons outside of football. And Chip Kelly comes in and says, well, I got this guy, I got that guy. I hear about this true freshman. Let's see what he can do. Oh, he's better than advertised. And right now, this cheat code that Chip Kelly has, woo, Marshall got that thing thrown right at them, and they had no answer. You also had, we talked about Judkins and Henderson in our postcast on Saturday evening. They combined for 20 carries, over 200 plus rushing yards, 2 rushing touchdowns apiece. They averaged 12 yards a pop plus for the game. But Judkins also had 2 catches for 14 yards. Henderson didn't have a catch, but his presence was felt. You also had other guys that are not a part of your top 3 weapons in the passing game get involved in the pass game as well. Kazmarek had a catch. Brandon Ennis had a catch. Jelani Thurman had a catch. And cannot forget David Adolph. He had a catch for 10 yards as well. This offense, I've been trying to figure out the right way to describe it. It's a cheat code, man. It's a cheat code that I don't know will be cracked this year. That's how elite this offense will be in 2024. There's never a bad time to start something new. And we're going to start a new trend here, just like we did on the postcast on Saturday. We're going to start a new trend today on this Monday pod, discussing 3 things that are left in my notebook after Ohio State's 49-14 win over Marshall. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Hey, NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. It's America's #1 sportsbook. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. Y'all, that's too good to pass up. I got to say it again. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. All the action goes down at FanDuel Sportsbook, and make sure you download the app to enjoy the fun on the go. Thank you for making Locked On Buckeyes your first listen every day. Three things from the Marshall game that are still in my notebook. I'm going to do a 3+1 because if you saw my notebook, it's literally filled from top to bottom with just various notes and things from the game. This is in a preparation for today's show. I started just writing some more stuff down and an injury update and some things with the offensive line, stuff with Ryan Day, stuff with the offense, stuff with Will Howard. And I'm thinking, why don't we just do a three things Marshall week post game? Because on a Monday, we're still kind of thinking about that game, still trying to wrap our heads around what happened, how disgruntled should we be with the Buckeyes defense from the first half. Is it just one of those things where it's the first time you see it, and would it be in the first time you see it this year? It's just a learning period. So many thoughts in my head. Not going to throw all of them at you. We're going to go three, and I also got a +1 for you on this Monday morning or Monday afternoon whenever you're tapping into this pod. Three things. The first thing in my notebook is Will Howard. It's about Will Howard, and if he has shown us enough that he can win games with his arm. So this is something that's been on my mind even in the offseason, and we really haven't seen or been able to see enough from Will Howard yet to know if he's going to be able to win games with his arm. His arm has improved. He was very accurate on Saturday. I believe he was, not going to say I believe, he was 16 of 20, 275, and 2 touchdowns. That's an 80% completion percentage, and his passer rating was 218.5. That's really good. That's amazing. That's really, really good. And I said it previously, I don't care if it's a G5 school or not, or if you're playing a Power 5 school or not, Power 4. It doesn't matter. If you go into any game where the defense has been game planning to stop you, and they know your arm is your weak. Maybe some parts of your arm are pretty weak or not as strong as others. So they know that, and they're trying to game plan to stop you and to expose your weaknesses. 16 to 20 is really good. 275, really good. So he's doing a lot of things right. But also, Will Howard has not shown me enough and shown us enough to know if Will Howard can win games with his arm. Now, I don't think it's going to be needed against Michigan State. I don't think it's going to be needed against Iowa. It might be needed in Autzen Stadium against those pesky Ducks. I do think that is something that might be on the table. Now, is that going to be one of those games where Julian Sand comes in to back him up and be the guy that comes in a big spot to make some big-time throws? I don't know. I'm saying Julian Sand because I am completely out on Devin Brown throwing the football this year at Ohio State. Maybe he does it next year. Maybe he does enough in the offseason to win the job. But, y'all, I am completely out. I spent part of my Sunday afternoon watching Anthony Richardson throw the football. And I say part because I took a nap, and the third quarter of the game, it was the Bears and the Colts. The Bears ultimately won the game, but it wasn't the prettiest game that I've ever watched. And Anthony Richardson, as I watched him throw the ball, I am audibly making comments about how bad the decisions are when he is making throws in the NFL. Now, Anthony Richardson has played, game number 7 for him in the NFL. He played 4 games last year as a rookie, and then he got hurt out for the season. He just finished his 3rd game this year for the Colts. And so 7 games. And Anthony Richardson has shown me that he struggles throwing the football. Devin Brown has showed me he struggles making some of the simple throws. And I understand it's mop-up duty. You're playing against backups. It don't matter. These are routine throws that Devin Brown's messing up. Anthony Richardson was messing up some routine throws. And just like Anthony Richardson on Sunday afternoon, where I was audibly making some comments about how bad that those were, I was doing the same thing about Devin Brown in mop-up duty. That shouldn't happen. From me, I should not be that audible from a guy who's a backup about, man, what are you doing? That's a simple throw. And I'm very, 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 very confused. So against Oregon, Julian Sand has a better arm, but I don't know if that's the stage you want to just thrust that guy onto right away and say, oh, number 18 ain't getting the job done. Number 10, your number's called. Get out there and just sling that rock all around the yard. I don't know. Will Howard has shown he has improved his arm. He's making good decisions. But also, the interception of to Jeremiah Smith, that's 2 games in a row that him and Jelani Thurman have not been on the same page. One was better defended than the one this past weekend. Will Howard threw the ball in a way that Jelani Thurman could get his hands on the ball on Saturday. Jelani Thurman dropped the ball, but it was still not a good throw from Will Howard. I don't know if Will Howard can win games with his arm. That's something we're still learning to try to get an answer to, and we did not get enough from him on Saturday. Even in a game where he was more efficient, to sit up here and say, hey, he can win games with his arm. We're going to move to these rests very quickly. Caden Curry's targeting call was not targeting. That's just one of the things that really annoys me about football right now is how targeting is officiated. If you look at that play, go back and look at the replay, the way that he went in, the way that he hit the quarterback with his hands and the way that his head was, that was not targeting. And I understand to protect the quarterback, we have to put some rules in place and make sure those are emphasized in real time. I don't care, man. That wasn't targeting. And for that young man, Caden Curry, to have to miss time in the upcoming game because of that targeting call, that's really unfortunate for him. But also it's bad officiating on a day when officiating was really, really bad. And Caden Curry had to feel the impact of the bad officiating because they called for a targeting when it wasn't targeting. I really hope in college football they fix this rule because it's really annoying when it keeps being an issue since the beginning of it being a rule, and it's been a rule for quite a long time. Speaking of officiating, I'm going to stay right into this one with our 3 things. Ryan Day's unsportsmanlike conduct penalty, I think it needed to be called. I also told my wife in real time, I understand why Ryan Day did that. At some point, Ryan Day has to realize even when I'm up pretty big, I can't be that hard on the refs because, well, being that hard on the refs, it may be an officiating career that the Ohio State sees down the road, and they'll remember that, and that may be a psychological thing that Ryan Day was trying to realize. Also, the head official, I don't know the guy. I've seen the guy officiate games numerous times. Don't know his name, don't know how long he's been doing it, but he's more of a novice. He's very, very green. Maybe Ryan Day is realizing, hey, I am sending a message to you, not just for this day, but for the future, the next time you have an Ohio State game. I don't know. But Ryan Day has to be very, very, very careful to not make that a normal thing. I'm all for fiery Ryan Day and a Ryan Day that's fired up and a Ryan Day that's very active in things there. I'm all for it. But you gotta tiptoe on that line to make sure you're not costing your team 15 yards. Sometimes coaches do things like that to send a message, a clear-cut message. And maybe Ryan Day was trying to do that in the moment. He said when he was talking to the refs, he was not cussing. He didn't cuss at them, but there were some things that he was trying to get his point across. And I understand everything he is saying, and I want to agree but believe everything Ryan Day is doing and not push back on it, but I got to push back. Come on, you cannot cost your team like that. It didn't hurt you that day, but if that becomes a habit, it could cost you in a big game and be one of the reasons why Ohio State was not able to overcome adversity in a big game, and it could be a loss down the road. This is a +1 for you. We won't have a +1, but we do today. Tyleik Williams' day today. Ryan Day mentioned this after his post-game presser, which is happening during our live postcast that was live on the YouTube after Saturday's win. Tyleik Williams' day today. An undisclosed injury. I kind of wish we were able to get some more information from Ohio State as far as injuries and what the injury is. I understand why we can't get that, but he's day to day. My guess is that he plays against Michigan State, especially with the way the defensive line played, or maybe it's a sign for Larry Johnson to kind of tighten up that rotation so you don't consistently have your backups getting beat and your backups not getting a consistent pass rush on teams. I don't know, but I really hope that this day-to-day is very similar to the Cody Simon situation and even the Donovan Jackson situation, that they're day-to-day and they can play, but maybe they're being held back just because of the opponent that is coming up on Ohio State's schedule. One thing happened on Saturday that had not happened since 2003. I'll tell you what it is next. This episode is brought to you by Game Time. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. So normally when we talk about Game Time, we're talking about things that are live events, sporting events. Maybe it's a Browns game, maybe it's an Ohio State game, maybe it's a Cavs, maybe it's the Guardians, whatever it may be, but we're talking about sporting events. But they also have tickets for numerous live events in other areas outside of sports that help you save money, customize the way you buy your tickets, and it makes your ticket purchasing process really easier, and it takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply again. Create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. Thank you for making Locked On Buckeyes your first listen every day. So I was scrolling like many of us do after a game on the Twitter, and I came across a tweet that was something in regards to Maurice Clarett. And this is something that I'm going to read a little bit of this here to you. It was kind of shocking to me that this was actually the first time in a very long time that Maurice Clarett was back on the sidelines at Ohio State. I remember Maurice Clarett when he was wearing the scarlet and gray that freshman year in Columbus. The Buckeyes won the Natty, and that was really when my Buckeye fandom kind of got kicked off. And of course, it got kicked off with a bang. I was a fan previously. My family is more of a pro sports family. Pacers and Colts. We don't have a pro baseball team in Indianapolis where I grew up. So we had the Indianapolis Indians, but when it came to Major League Baseball, we were Cubs fans consistently. I really missed the games on the WGN, but we were not really a college family. Mom went to IU, brother eventually went to Butler, dad went to Indiana State, but that was not enough for us to watch college football religiously on a Saturday afternoon. And so when I was a kid, I was one that was really influenced by my friends like everybody else was. And I had some friends that were Miami fans. And at the time, Miami was real. Also, the BCS, the BCS being a thing, that really helped me really hone in on, oh man, undefeated, 2 undefeated teams are playing in the BCS National Championship for the first time in the sport. And I understood this as a youngster. For the first time in the sport, there's a true national championship game. Oh man, I love it. So when Ohio State in that year in the 2002 season won the Natty, beat Miami, that was something that hit me hard. But also, I loved watching Maurice Clarett play football. And it's very sad that for the first time, he was back on the sidelines in the shoe since August 30th, 2003. And he even says in the tweet, special thanks to Coach Day for making it all possible. And I'm glad that he's back in the shoe. I'm going to read some more of this here in a second. I'm very glad because he's one of those Buckeyes that needs to be celebrated. There are some things that were really high in his life. He also had some really, 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 really low and dark moments. Not going to dive into those. But for a man that had those moments in the shoe, outside of the shoe, for him to be able to be where he is currently in life, and for him to be able to be a stand-up man, and for him to change his life and be someone that's really walking the path, the right kind of path that he should be walking for his life. It's nice to see that. He's smiling. He's very vocal. He is helping people, making an impact in the community. All of these things are positive. It's also positive that for the first time since 2003, he's back on the sidelines in the shoe. I didn't know it had been that long at all. We see former players on the sidelines all the time. Guys that are working in media or guys that are just former Buckeye players that are making an impact. Maybe you're working in media, but you're not working in that game. It don't really matter if you're a media member or not. You're a former player at Ohio State. That should be enough to get you access on the sidelines. He put this out there, kind of talking about his feelings and what it meant for him to be back in the shoe. Being back around the program is spiritually rewarding. Sports are pure. It's the ultimate reality TV. I love the energy, competitiveness, noise, aggression, and all the things that go into playing football. I am at a place in life where the things I value are the things you can't buy. And this experience, reality, is one of them, end quote. Just the way that he is displaying this, and some of you may be people that have met Maurice Clarett and you know him personally, and it really hits home when you hear for the first time in 21 years, let's put the number on it, he's back on the sideline. Now, when I saw this, and I'm not trying to, I wouldn't say this just to say it, but the thought is in my head, and I think it's okay to say that here on the show. Gene Smith just retired this summer. And I'm not saying Gene Smith is a reason why Maurice Clarett had not been back on the sidelines in the shoe. But I am wondering if Gene Smith kind of tried to keep Maurice Clarett away from the sideline during Buckeye games. Because with Gene Smith retiring and Ross Bjork being in, Maurice Clarett credits Ryan Day for helping him make it possible. Ryan Day has been at Ohio State since 2017, been the head coach since 2019. So the only difference that I see now is a new AD. There's also a new president in this too. So there's a couple layers there that are people in high command, high places at Ohio State that maybe have been reasons. So I'm not trying to put this all on Gene Smith. But what that was my first connection. Gene Smith retires. Maurice Clarett is back on the sidelines. It's weird. I don't know. And I'm not sitting up here and saying, and I don't want people out here going on Twitter and saying, Jay is saying Gene Smith is the reason that Maurice Clarett had not been able to have this access during a game. I am not saying that. But I think it's a valid question to ask. And I think it's one that we can all speculate and wonder, what changed? A lot has changed. Don't get me wrong. But is this the reason why? Truly, I don't know. And I don't know what goes on behind the scenes. I don't know exactly what buttons have been pushed or what has been said. I have no idea. I do know this. Maurice Clarett was back on the sidelines. I hope that he's able to be there more often this season because it is a special place. I have the privilege every Friday evening to be on the sidelines covering high school football games in my local area. And it's a special privilege for me to even have this opportunity to highlight high school sports in my community, but also to be down there on the sidelines, you're able to hear certain things. It also brings back certain memories for me. And for Maurice Clarett, it's going to bring back different memories because the Horseshoe is a special place. You're getting to hear things that remind you about things from when you played. You're getting to smell things literally on Friday night. I was talking to the head coach after the game, and we were having a little issue with the audio before recording a post-game interview. And I said, hey, man, I apologize for this taking so long. He's like, oh, no, we're good, man. I don't want to go over there anyway. Them boys smell in the locker room after a game. I'm like, hey, trust me, I get it. Because during the game, as I'm walking back and forth to the sidelines, I smell it too. But that smells a little nostalgic. It brings back so many memories. It makes me think about when I started playing football in 7th grade and the things that we did when I was in high school, and all of those memories start to come back when you're back on the sidelines. And the same thing is for Maurice Clarett. It's a special place. Oh, it's a special place in his heart. The Horseshoe does. And I'm glad he was able to get back on that place, in that place on Saturday when the Buckeyes blew out the Thundering Herd. Thank you for making Locked On Buckeyes your first listen today. For your second listen, find Locked On College Football, from NIL deals to never-ending conference realignment rumors. Spencer McLaughlin gets you ready for an exciting season on the gridiron. Find Locked On College Football on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. You can follow me on Twitter at jsteven07. Follow the show on Twitter at LO Buckeyes. Also on the community tab there on the YouTube. We're having daily polls come out. We will also unveil different updates throughout the weekend or throughout the week. So if you want to know what players are playing in the game or not, that's a way to get it. If you want to get daily polls with a lot of responses, that's a place to get those as well. Thank you for tapping into Locked On Buckeyes here on a Monday. We'll see you next time.